There are several stakeholders in the real estate industry. One of the major responsibilities or jobs of a facility manager is to ensure a strong, successful team filled with individuals who are striving for the best to improve the lifestyle of those in their community and drive productivity eventually. Today, we have Mr. Steve Chigozirim Amadi, the General Manager, Dream Court Facility Management Company Limited, the service providers for the Victoria Crest communities. And he's going to be speaking to us about facility management. Welcome, Mr. Steve.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you here. Authentic Real Estate Stories is basically get towards telling our authentic real estate story for every stakeholder or everyone who is who has vested interest in the real estate industry, from developers to agents to investors to government officials to facility managers, everyone indeed who has vested interest in the real estate space, to tell us their authentic real estate story, how they started, how it's been going, what are the challenges they're experiencing, the rewards, of career and profession, and then of course, guiding whoever wants to join in this train with us. And so we're really elated to have you here today and to share on your journey. I have quite a number of questions I want to ask, and I'll go right into it. First, facility management is every developer's nightmare, and I mean every developer's nightmare. How did you get into facility management? Can you take us through your journey to date?
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I came into the real estate or the facility management profession not as a plan or as a career initially. Of course, when you live in Nigeria, the government and the factors around us push you aside and push you to take up responsibilities. And the advice for everyone is, for whatever space or whatever environment you find yourself, you just have to seize the opportunity and make yourself relevant in it. So I came into the real estate space initially as a procurement personnel, and I thrived in that role for a period of about 2 years. And facility management as its way, of course, working with the Victoria Crest community, Victoria Crest homes, we had a situation where the general manager of the company at that time had some challenges, and follow-up to that was him tendering his resignation. And at that point, there was a lacuna, a vacuum that needed to be filled urgently in order to sustain operations in regards to providing services to our residents. And at that point, instead of waiting for the very experienced hire at that point, management looked at it and saw the capacity in me as an individual, and had the need for me to be co-opted as the manager of that company. It has not been an easy journey. Sometimes the challenges that come in, we had to learn some of the things we do on the job. But like I said earlier, it's about seizing the opportunity, building capacity, building yourself in whatever part you find yourself, and of course, giving your best shot at it.
Amazing. So on this journey, like you said, it wasn't initially where you started off. How have you been able to walk into those shoes? What are the things that you have done to garner capacity and experience so as to excel on your job?
Okay, it's often said that knowledge is power, and I believe so much in that quote, because for whatever space you want to dominate or want to exert your influence, if you don't have the accurate knowledge, if you don't have relevant information as regards that sector, you will definitely not do well. So when I found myself in that situation, I knew that I immediately required to equip myself with management skills. It spurred me to take up courses in management, spurred me to take up courses in facility management, spurred me to take up, go for seminars, read for or search for materials online, go through YouTube, see how others who have been successful in the system are doing it, see their areas or weaknesses if you can identify any, and see how you build upon those areas. So it is never a perfect situation. The facility management job, as I would like to say it, is it's not a job where you expect to have things working 100% all the time. But as much as within your powers, you must be able to provide that required level of comfort for your residents. Even when the challenges are there, there has to be a way out. So having, first of all, to understand the people you serve, having to understand what is expected of you as a facility manager would make you at all times to see the need to constantly improve on yourself, constantly improve on your abilities. And of course, if there are attributes you need to pick up along the line, you pick up those skill sets, exactly. You pick up those and rebrand yourself, so to say, and come up as a more refined and if trusted service provider.
Amazing. So this is a rebranded Steve.
You can say that again.
I like that. Okay, so moving ahead, I'd like to ask, with the catalyst driving change, COVID-19, the green ecosystem, and countless other economic disruptors, how do you continue to deliver quality lifestyle for your service communities?
Wow, it's been quite...
First, how many communities do you manage at the time?
Okay, at present we manage about over 10 estates with residency levels of over 2,000 residents at the moment.
Oh, wow.
We have, in fact, the challenge of running running operations generally is we all know what is happening in the economy presently, the skyrocketing rate of diesel prices. If I permit me to give a little statistics, at about 2021 September, we had diesel price ranging from about 290 to 330. Whereas at today, April 2022, we have the price of diesel at about 640, 650. So some of these indices would affect the operations. And as a company, we have looked at it, and on the long run, we know that with the way the economy is heading, particularly as we don't have absolute control over diesel price and EKDC hours and all that, there is that need for us to think outside the box and look for alternative ways to running operations. We talked about the green and ecosystem maintenance. This has been the drive. In fact, going by the Millennium Sustainable Development Goals, the whole essence of man moving away from combustible fuel to greener and safer energy sources cannot be overemphasized. So as a company, we are looking at exploring other options, seeing what will be sustainable and best for our residents. Solar options have been explored. The use of gas plants are being considered. And of course, when all consultations with the appropriate quotas are completed, we would have better ways of managing our operations, particularly as regards power, and of course, having to reduce the weight and the costs to our residents and clients, so to say.
So, based on what you have said and the analysis, the statistics you've given now, the price of diesel has risen considerably over about
the last 6 months.
About
over 250%. It's
you know,
amazing.
it's so. How have you managed to deliver quality lifestyle to your residents, despite, you know, this one factor? At least, let's even leave the other factors. This one factor.
Okay, well, basically, it's been a challenging one for not just the facility company, because yet again, we are all living in Nigeria. We all know the salary expectation of every resident. Sometimes, even with these indices and factors changing, the salaries are not coming up. So it's a bit.
The figures are changing, exactly. But then standard of living
doesn't necessarily improve. So as a company, we try to balance out operations, we try to balance out putting ourselves also in the residents' positions, see how we can reach reasonable conclusions. We had one-on-one engagements with residents, one-on-one engagement with management of the estates in terms of the executive committees, see what best would help that particular estate, or what best would be convenient for the residents to do or to come up with at every point in time. So it wasn't a case of the facility management company lording over her residents. It's a case of partnership, it's a case of collaboration. What ideas do you have? What ideas can you put on the table? How can we best solve this problem?
Because we're all in it together anyways.
Exactly. And for the recent time, we've had residents and committees, power committees, and people more interested in how operations are run. We find situations where, even to the point of even buying the products, buying diesel or paying for generator service maintenance, the residents are now more interested. The residents are now more involved. Unlike before, okay, they just sit at, oh, we have paid the facility manager and let him just get done with it.
So now they begin to feel your pain.
Exactly.
They begin to understand the nitty-gritties of your job.
Exactly. So what we have done is we've opened up our books, we've opened up our operations. There is really no hidden agenda anywhere. Everyone can see how the money is being generated. Everyone sees how the expenses are also being, how the expenses are also churned out. Everyone can see exactly how efficiency is achieved when operations are seen to be running. Take, for example, you have statistics of running power in the estates, running a particular kind of generator at a particular time, and having to run another at another time. So we had people who even monitor those processes, not just the facility manager, because all these have impacts on the long run on the finances. So with that level of collaboration with the residents, it's been easy for us to sell our ideas to them. It's been easy for us to also hear them out and, of course, find the middle ground to sustain operations.
Amazing, amazing. It's quite tough and tedious to talk about power production here, but I'm sure we're getting there someday. And with, you know, all the hype and talk about the sustainable society, I'm sure most of it will begin to explore, you know, in the near future.
Exactly.
As a service provider and enabler, you ensure that your communities are safe, they are healthy, they are sustainable, we cannot over-echo that, and are functional. And then you contribute to the productivity of your residents in doing so, and everyone you serve. How do you manage these people, knowing that most people do not like change? You know, from 200 and something to 700 or 800 and something, and that's just in power. And then, of course, to bringing in new service providers, which include the security personnel and stuff. Like, how do you manage, you know, all these people you deal with, aside even the residents, everyone who you work with? How do you manage these people? Because we know that people generally do not like change and easily get frustrated when things are not going smoothly. When there's a bit of change in the operation, people begin to, you know, raise uproar. So how has your job, you know, equipped you or helped you learn how to manage? What capacity have you built? You know, it's a lot of work to deal with, you know, well over, I'm sure, 15 estates and over 2,000 families. So how do you manage all these people?
Okay, basically, when managing people, you just have to see yourself in their own shoes. The moment you lose sight of that, then you're going to have a tough time managing them. Be it the artisans who work for you, be it the security man who manages the gates for you, be it the residents. At every point in time, when you have engagements with the various category of persons you come across in course of facility management, you must always see things from their own point of view. I'll give examples of when managing estates, because I know they are the persons, or when managing residents, because I know they are the ones paying the money. So for every change I would want to implement, I have to carry them along. I have to explain reasons why you're moving from point A to point B. You have to explain or justify why certain indices would change. Permit me to just go a little bit deep in regards to explaining this. We had situations where, as a company, of course, with the instability in diesel price and the EKDC situation, power, of course, a public power supply, you activate a new tariff today, and in 2 weeks, having looked at the books, you see that it is not sustainable to even run till the end of the month. You have to come back again midway to, of course, engage the residents. And we witnessed this in the last few weeks, particularly in March and April, with the collapse of the national grid. You had situations where with your projection, you had agreed an X amount of tariff. But because of the news you receive, because of how operations are run generally in Nigeria as regards power, we don't have control over the public power supply, where you have out of maybe 744 hours in a month, you're having EKDC hours for just as low as 100 hours. You can imagine the impact that would be on diesel consumption, on the generators running and all that. So we try as much as possible to go down to the very elementary levels in explaining these things to our residents. We go as far as providing them data of how we intend to progress from point A to point B. And we also make them commit to having reviews with us. So it's not just a case of we doing our study, our research, and imposing figures on them. We commit you to also be part of the process, be part of the diesel receiving process, be part of the monitoring of the EKDC, be part of the load taking, so that at every point in time, when we sit on the table to analyze these figures, there are figures that are verifiable by you, verifiable from the part of the facility management company, and everyone is moving towards achieving a common goal. So it is the same when you handle your security personnel or your security vendors, because ultimately the way you treat the vendors will determine the kind of service they eventually churn out. Yes. If you don't treat them with love, if you don't treat them with some level of respect, then you would see, or you find a situation where they lose interest in their job and they're just waiting to be paid at the end of the month, and whatever happens, happens. But when you treat them with some element of concern, you treat them with some element of respect, then they will deliver on their job. For my colleagues in this space as well, my other colleagues in the department, we have extensive engagements where issues come up, you advise them. You don't see yourself just as a manager. Sometimes you see yourself as a servant as well. You have to really get your hands dirty. When engaging the generator guys, sometimes you go into the generator or the powerhouse with them, you see what they face, you see how they do the change of the equipment, the change of oil and all that. So when they complain or make requests to you, you understand from what point of view they are making such requests. When they have cause to ask for reviews in terms of pricing, and you understand exactly where they are coming from. So it's all about, like I said, putting yourself in the client's shoes, in your vendor's shoes, in your artisan's shoes, and at the end of it all, everyone would be on the same page to achieve the required results.
Amazing, amazing. Well done, Steve. I'd also like to ask, it has been said, and it's a general knowledge. A lot of people always run away from the fact that facility managers they don't have a life, and so they don't want to be in that space, you know. So it has been said that facility managers don't have a life. How have you been able to cope, you know, with these realities, especially, you know, with the present state of things and the power, the other disruptors, COVID-19 and all, you know, how have you been able to cope?
Well, it's not actually so far from the truth. I was going through a write-up online a few days ago, and I saw a quote that said the facility management job is not a thank you job. And in all truthfulness, that's actually the case with us. You have situations where 365 days in the year, perhaps you maintained water supply, power supply for 364. And just one day when there is a shutdown in the estate, everybody is upset, everybody is shouting, and they forget all the 364 days where you had done so well. So in essence, what we do is we try as much as possible to, at all times, like I said before, we don't have 100% situation, but on a scale of 1 to 100, when you are able to score 98, 99%, then you can say you've done very well. So we as much as possible, try as...
if you even score 100, there's no room for improvement.
Exactly. There's no
so
room
you
for
have
improvement.
to score 95 or even
so that
90.
you can improve
yes.
on some of the areas.
You leave 5%
exactly.
room for improvement. Yes.
Exactly. So it's actually not entirely true, but I can say it's a 50-50 situation. When you say the facility managers don't have a life, I can give credence to that in some way, because I've had cause to... on a particular day, I was on my way to service, on my way to church, and I got a call that there was an issue. I had to quickly drop off my family and came back to resolve the issue. So that's about the level of sacrifice you can make when resolving or trying to attend to your residents. You can be at home and just get a call that there is an issue in your facility, even if it is 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 p.m. You just have to make yourself available to address such issues. So what we try to do is we try and, as much as possible, to put in persons in position, put working processes to ensure that at every point in time, somebody is on ground to attend to any situation and have issues resolved. So we can have...
For those who have, the sentiments, who share these sentiments, because what you are saying now is really, it's not far from the truth. But why would I want to join that team of facility managers and have to go through that rigor also? Why would I be encouraged to become a facility manager?
Okay, I would want to liken the facility management job to that of a nurse. A nurse sometimes doesn't... some persons who practice the profession are not entirely... I don't know the exact words to use now, but it's a work, is a profession of sacrifice.
It requires a lot of sacrifice.
Exactly. It requires self-denial. You don't do things at your own convenience. Sometimes you have to do things having the interest of others first in mind.
That's the job of a doctor.
Exactly.
More.
You have to have the interest of others in mind. I'll give you an example of a day when I was in the estate, and for some reason we had some situations or an issue with one of our power plants, and the only way to have power supplied to that estate at that particular time was to have a manual connection done to the radiator and someone on standby to constantly supply water and coolant to the radiator. So while people are in their homes sleeping and having a good time, others are outside making sure that generator set doesn't go off.
That generator is collecting coolant and collecting water
at the same time, because the issue happened unexpectedly, just about midnight. We just have a situation where there are excessive leakages and it's not something that can be fixed at the moment. So you just have to look for a temporary solution pending when the situation can be resolved in the morning. So that's just about the sacrifice I talked about the facility manager, because the officer on the ground that day has to make sure that constantly the generator is given what it requires to supply. So we've had cause for people to skip their holidays if there are holidays. We've had cause for people to come over during the weekends on Sundays.
Do you get to make up for those days you skip? Because I'm a woman and I have kids, so I am concerned. Okay. So that's why I'm asking if I have to work as a doctor or as a nurse. Sometimes doctors also have holidays where they have to go and spend maybe a few days. I think they for the nurses they are on duty and then they are off duty. Okay. I don't know how I think it also works the same way for doctors, right? So for the facility managers, they get to go on a vacation or something to just make you ease into family lifestyle at some point.